The official meeting of our City Council to order. Today is Monday, September 21st, and if we could all stand and state the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I would ask Mr. Kevin Sheehan, along with Sue Kim, to come up and perform for us "America the Beautiful." While they're coming up, I would like to recognize what Mr. Sheehan has done for Ms. Sue Kim. If we don't recall, sometime last winter, we had a tragic fire on Spring Road, and Sue Kim's dry cleaning company virtually burnt to the ground. And in her dry cleaning company was a cello. And feeling sorry for Miss Sue Kim, Kevin Sheehan, a Lincoln student over at Lincoln School here in Elmhurst, my school where my kids went, did a fundraiser and raised dollars to buy this cello for Miss Sue Kim. I think we're character counts community in this town. We all step up when times are tough, when people are sick, when people are in need. Elmhurst is the type of town where people rise to the occasion and help each other. And I can't think of anything that more represents character counts than what this young man has done. So with that, Mr. Kevin Sheehan and Ms. Sue Kim, America the Beautiful. That is what Elmhurst is all about right there, just in a nutshell. Mr. Kevin Sheehan, our hats off for what you did for this fine lady who's been a business owner in our town for many years. And I tell you what you just did was about the most adult man thing that a person can do. And as mayor of this town, I thank you. And one more round of applause for this beautiful day. Actually, at this time, if you'd like to come up and shake all of the aldermen's hands, I would encourage that. I'm going to come down and get you. We'll get you. Have you greet everybody. Ms. Kim, we're glad to see that you're up and running next door over there, so it's nice to have you back in business, and we thank you for all your service to Elmhurst and the years of dedication to our business community as well, too. To make this meeting official, I'd ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll, please.
Gutenkopf. Here. Pezza.
Here.
Shea.
Here.
Leader.
Here.
Rose.
Here.
Graham.
Here.
Hipskin. Absent. York.
Here.
Nybo.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
Morley.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
13 present, 1 absent.
13 present, 1 absent. We do have an official quorum. Next on the agenda is something very special. Many people know that back in the 80s, I ran probably for the best coach ever in the state of, not in the state of Illinois, not only in the state of Illinois, but probably in the country. Ran for Joe Newton. I ran on a legacy team that won 4 straight state titles, which would set a record. Many years later, to follow, I had a younger brother, Anthony DeCiani, who ran for a guy named Joe Newton and a guy named Charlie Kern. Charlie Kern did something special. He not only has helped bring home state titles to this great town, but he also set a record. He's the fastest man in the world over the age of 40. And the guy is a great guy. He's a great motivator. I'm jealous because he's only a couple years younger than me, but he could still run. I'm kind of an old guy that thinks he could run but can't. But Charlie did something that was special, and we're here to honor Charlie tonight. Before we honor him, we have a little video that we like to show, which comes from a movie called The Long Green Line. Long Green Line was produced by 2 young men who actually ran for Joe Newton, Mr. Matt Hallegren and Mr. Tom Arnold. Actually, Matthew Arnold, excuse me. Tom Arnold was his dad, who also was, we used to call him a coach. He was a big advocate for York and York Boosters. I'll tell you what, after I saw this movie last spring, or excuse me, yeah, it was last summer, it was one of the determining factors that said I was going to run for mayor, because this town is a great town. The programs that we have are great programs, but the inspiration that I got from Joe Newton and the inspiration that my brother got from Charlie Kern was just incredible. And here's a little clip about what Charlie Kern has done for Elmhurst and York, and we talk again about character counts. This is one of the best characters you'll see in this town that's made an impression and impact on a lot of lives.
Vince Lombardi died in 1969, so that's like 36 years ago. Who is it? Coach of the Green Bay Packers. Here's what he said. One of my favorite quotes of all time. Quality of a man's life is in direct proportion to his commitment to excellence, regardless of his field of endeavor. So what you're learning out here, if you're going to be a pipe fitter, you're going to be the best pipe fitter. If you're going to be a teacher, you're going to be the best one. Lawyer, doctor. It was a great effort today. We're going to see if anybody wants to work. 12 in a row. That's how we got the name the Long Green Line way back. I came there, we had 15 guys in a row that day, and they all had green suits on. The guy from the Elmhurst Press says, geez, look at that long green line. Now, 50 years later, it's still going on. Gentlemen, look at this. Hi, I'm the first. We got.
About tomorrow, my mom might have to work,
So?
so she might not be able to come.
Well, yeah. She
Chad, we can't have rules for you and then rules for the other guy. If you're gonna be here, you gotta be here.
I just want to give you a quick rundown of the rules. It's very simple. The first rule is you got to be here. You're allowed one unexcused absence. On the second one, we say thank you very much. If you still want to be here, you're going to be a manager. So the rules are the same for everybody. If you're going to sign up for something, no matter what it is, you got to be there and you got to be there on time. And that's something that transcends cross country and becoming a great runner. That's nice and that's wonderful. And we're trying to win title number 25. But what's far more important is making men out of these guys right here. No drugs, no drinking. Those are things that are nothing that a real athlete wants to put in their body. Quick rules, tardy, unexcused, and do the best you can with what you got where you're at.
We're good. As we can see, this gentleman, we talk about character counts, we talk about what's right in Elmhurst. This is not only what's right in Elmhurst, this is a let's celebrate moment. I don't believe we've ever had a world champion ever in the history of the city of Elmhurst. This gentleman was an All-American runner in college. Unlike Newton, he actually runs with his runners. I know that because when he ran with my brother was having a hard time breaking 2 minutes and a half mile, and he called me up. He goes, Pete, Dad, he goes, I broke 2 minutes. I go, how'd you do it? He goes, Charlie ran with me, and he made me run it. This guy is just incredible. I mean, words can't express what he's done for our kids and what he just did for not only for himself but for this community, because, again, to have this kind of a caliber person in our town as mayor and as a friend of his, I just can't think of anything better. So at this time, I'd like to have Charlie Kern come up and meet me at the podium over here. He's a shy guy, but I want to have him say a few words because, again, what he's done for this town, what he's done for our kids, he runs with them all summer long. He trains himself, and he's a competitive guy. He's got a great wife and beautiful kids. He's a role model for us. And again, I'm 43. I know he's only a couple years younger than me. To be running the kind of times this guy's running at his age is incredible. We're not that old, are we?
No,
I'm kidding.
no.
With that, Charlie Kern.
We're just First, I just want to say thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here. I've been here before as an assistant coach with a cross country or track team, and it's been so cool to watch them be honored. And then now it's my turn, and in a sense, it's quite humbling. But as we had the performers earlier here, someone stepped up to purchase that cello for the teacher there, and the same thing happened to me. I ran in a race back in February and March rather, and I found out about this world championship meet in Finland, and I'm like, oh, that's great, but you have to pay your own way. And I'm like, well, I've got 3 kids. I could do it. I could find the money somewhere somehow, and I could do it, but that diverts funds away from shoes for my kids, and they want to get an ice cream cone or whatever it is that they want. And so I had told a very good friend of mine who teaches at York High School, Tom Wolf. I said, I told him about it, and I said, there's this opportunity for this, but it's just not going to happen. But it's cool to think about. He goes, you got to make it happen. We got to do it. He's like, well, it's not going to happen. He said, will you give me a shot? And so he, with Kurt Palmer, in 2 weeks, raised what they felt would be enough money to send not just me, but my wife as well. And we had an experience like nothing I've had before. I went there to try to win this world championship in my age group, and I achieved that goal. That was awesome. But I found out that there were some other things with this trip that exceeded that. And the first and foremost of that was that I had 10 days of my wife's undivided attention. And that was like we were dating again. It was so awesome. This is a woman that has allowed me the opportunity to continue to train, and I'm on a Saturday morning I want to get out there and run with the boys, or I'm coming home at 5:36 and scrambling to help her with dinner, or I didn't help her with dinner, allowing me to do this. So I am so grateful to Lynn, who's given me this chance to continue to compete well beyond the time that I should have, perhaps. All the people here in Elmhurst who supported that effort. I'm not sponsored by Nike or Adidas or anything like that. I was sponsored by the good people of Elmhurst. How cool is that? I can't thank them enough and their efforts in making this happen. I read a great book this summer called Outliers by a fellow by the name of Malcolm Gladwell, and they talked about the story of success. And certainly one of the components of that happens to be all the hard work that someone puts into whatever it is that they pursue. Michelangelo once upon a time said that if people knew how hard I work and how much time I spent doing what I do, they wouldn't find what I do remarkable at all. I spent a great deal of time to try to make this happen, but it would never have occurred if it weren't for all those hundreds, maybe thousands of people who have had some kind of influence on my life, from coaches to my parents to the people right here in Elmhurst. So to all of them, in a blanket statement right now, thank you very much for helping me become the person that I became, and now it's my turn to try to help others achieve their goals. Thank you.
Congratulations, John. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good job. Charlie, congratulations. Great goal. It's Charlie Kern, world champion, Masters Athletics, championship men's 1,500 meters. One last round of applause for Charlie. Great job, Charlie. Charlie, I should know this. What was your time? Was it 4:04?
I ran 1,500 meters in 4:04.
I thought I knew it.
It's all relative. It's actually slow, but it didn't matter the time. The victory is what time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Charlie. I'll tell you what, 4:04 is pretty darn fast in my mind right now. So, God bless you, buddy. We got a lot of great things happening tonight. Next on the agenda, we have the swearing in of 2 new police officers, which I feel great about doing. Normally, we have around 70 sworn in our department, and currently we are in the mid-60s, 66, 67. So we are swearing on 2 new officers tonight. They will be going into training, and this is something I think we all take serious up here, because public service and public safety is probably our #1 priority, is to keep the public out there safe. And so with that, I would ask our first candidate, Kyle Delling, to step up to the podium and meet me up there. Before we actually swear Kyle in, I have Chief Doherty here and Chief Panico. They're going to be saying a few words about each of our new officers' background. And Jim Doherty, Deputy Chief Jim Doherty, come on up.
Thank you, Mayor. It's an exciting time for us at the police department when new members join the organization, and we really look forward to Kyle and Adrian coming on board. Kyle grew up in Elmhurst, so he's, like myself, he's a graduate of York High School, also went to college at DuPage, and then went to the Murray State Racers for his graduate degree, specializing in criminal justice. So he's just the type of candidate the police department looks for. He's been working in the construction trade since he graduated from school until now, and he really was committed to coming on to Elmhurst. He went through our process twice and finally succeeded in getting on the police department. We're very excited to have him, and welcome aboard. And if his family members would join him up here while the mayor swears him in and hand his badge, we'll get some photographs of that. Mayor?
Come on up, family. This is a special day. Special day and a special person. And an Elmhurst guy. You can't ask for much more than that. So, all right. Kyle, I ask you to raise your hand. Right hand, please. And repeat after me. I, Kyle Delling,
I, Kyle Dealing,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully discharge the duties of an Elmhurst police officer
that I will faithfully discharge the duties of an Elmhurst police officer
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
and I do hereby dedicate myself to protecting the rights,
and I do hereby dedicate myself to protecting the rights,
lives, and property of persons whom I serve.
lives, property, and persons of whom I serve.
I pledge to be completely honest in word and deed,
I pledge to be completely honest in word and deed,
to provide equal protection under the law to all persons,
to provide equal protection under the law to all persons,
to be fair and impartial in my treatment of all persons,
to be fair and impartial to my treatment of all persons,
to adhere to the law enforcement code of ethics,
to adhere to the law enforcement code of ethics,
and to direct my daily efforts toward achieving the mission,
to direct my daily efforts to achieving the mission,
values, goals, and objectives of the department.
values, goals, and objectives of the department.
I will at all times support the Constitution and laws of the United States of America
I will at all times support the Constitution and laws of the United States of America
and of the state of Illinois
and of the state of Illinois
and the ordinances of the city of Elmhurst.
and the ordinance of the city of Elmhurst.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Great job. Want to get a quick picture? Absolutely, absolutely. We okay? I'm definitely in front.
I think so.
Congratulations. Good luck with everything, okay? Our next candidate, Deputy Chief Dominic Panico, will make the introduction. Dominic?
We're here tonight to welcome Adrian Ravello to our police department. Adrian comes to us from the Cook County Sheriff's Police Corrections Office, where he's been working. He's a graduate of Richards Vocational High School in Chicago. He's also involved in the Latino Youth Club, and he attended both Triton and Marine Valley College. Many classes were focused on criminal justice. So without further ado, Your Honor.
All right, Adrian, I ask you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. And actually, family? Perfect. Ravellos are like the DC Annies. Got a lot of them, right? All right. That's what we like to see. Come on, there you go. Want to come close? Perfect. Okay. I, Adrian Ravello,
I, Adrian Ravello,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully discharge the duties of an Elmhurst police officer
I will faithfully discharge the duties of an Elmhurst police officer
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
and I do hereby dedicate myself to protecting the rights,
and I do hereby dedicate myself to protecting the rights,
lives, and property of persons
lives, and properties of persons
whom I serve.
whom I serve.
I pledge to be honest, completely honest,
I pledge to be completely honest
in word and deed,
in word and deed,
to provide equal protection under the law
to provide equal protection under the law
to all persons,
to all persons,
to be fair and impartial
to be fair and impartial
in my treatment of all persons,
in my treatment of all persons,
to adhere to the law enforcement code of ethics,
to adhere in the law enforcement code of ethics,
and to direct my daily efforts,
and to
direct my daily efforts. There you go.
direct
That's okay.
the daily efforts
There you go. Toward achieving the mission,
towards achieving the mission,
values,
values,
goals,
goals,
and objectives of the department,
and objectives of the department,
and I will at all times
and I would all times
support the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America
support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the laws
and the laws
and of the state of Illinois
and of the state of Illinois
and the ordinances of the city of Elmhurst.
and the ordinances of the city of Elmhurst.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. One last applause for two very, very nice candidates that are official police officers now, and we're looking forward to getting them on the street as fast as possible. Great job to our deputy chiefs, too, for evaluating the talent and bringing the best to Elmhurst. Thanks, guys. Okay. Moving along here. At this time, I'd ask for if there are any written communications and petitions from the public. If there are any, I would ask that you please present those to our city clerk. It's our city clerk, Patty Spencer, right up here to my right at this time. Are there any written communications or petitions to present at this time? If there are, please come up and present them to Clerk Spencer. Okay. Seeing none, I will then go to our public forum portion of our meeting, where anybody in the audience can speak about anything regarding Elmhurst, and you would have 3 minutes to speak about that. I would ask that you state your name and your address, and then I'll give you 3 minutes to go ahead and talk about what you any issue you may have regarding Elmhurst. And at this time, if you'd like to raise your hand, I see County Board Representative Mr. Brian Sheehan there. Feel free, Brian.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Brian Sheehan. I live at 5 St. Regis Court, Elmhurst, Illinois. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Neighborhood Coalition Against Gambling. My colleague, Bridget Gaynor, Cook County Commissioner Bob Schillerstrom, DuPage County Board Chairman, and John Pastuvic, a fellow Elmhurst resident who's represented of the Illinois Crime Commission. You've recognized a lot of forms of leadership tonight, and we simply wanted to recognize your leadership on video gambling. The adverse effects of video gambling are well known. That's the reason that 4 of the 9 states that have passed it have repealed it. It's not something that will ultimately be good for Elmhurst. And so on behalf of the coalition, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sheehan. Anybody else for public forum? This gentleman here, go ahead. Please state your name and your address, and then we'll go ahead and give you 3 minutes. There you go.
My name is David Orr, 958 Bryan, Elmhurst. 6 years, by the way, tough act to follow tonight. I'll explain the flashlight briefly. 6-year resident of Elmhurst, 3-year dog owner, and my dog is very clean, by the way. My dog has paid his license. We have paid our taxes. I want to just expound on your statement, Mr. Mayor, on our #1 priority is public service and public safety. Every night I walk the dog, I have to walk the dog with the flashlight. Why? Skunks. Recently, there was an article in the Elmhurst Press, and I know we're not here to editorialize here, but the animal control said, actually, there's been a decrease in sightings over the last summer. Well, my dog got skunked over the weekend. 3 years in a row he's been skunked. That's why he's a very clean dog right now. Now, why is this an issue? #1, potential health threat of rabies. The article, although informative, said nothing at all about rabies, just talked about the odor. According to the Center for Disease Control, in 2007, 7,259 cases of rabies, 36% raccoons, 27% bats, 20% skunks. All right, nationally, that's all right. What about locally? State of Illinois, 2008, 113 cases of rabies with bats. Let's bring it even closer to home. 2008, DuPage County, 3 cases of rabies for bats. 2009, so far, 3 cases of rabies for bats. What does this mean for us and the skunks? Well, according to a 2001 survey in northern Arizona, rabies is being found to be transmitted from bats to skunks. Bats, last year, there were 113 cases of rabies in bats. So this is a potential health risk for our area. So what's the problem? Number one, lots of skunks. This morning, 2 skunks in my walk. I walk my dog twice a day, usually take inventory of the skunks. Both of them were in residential areas. One of them, Gimpy, as we see him, usually about 1.5 blocks away. Chubby, we saw today. Skinny, and Fast One, we did not see today. So those are the 4 skunks we usually see on a daily basis. So besides that, the inconvenience and the potential health issues. So there's the problem. What's the solution? What do we want? What's the solution that I want from the city here? Czars, as popular as they may be, I don't think it's going to be appropriate here. Open season on skunks, probably not a viable solution here. What I would like you to do is, we currently have rules that for caging skunks, I would like to see a lessening of the restrictions, because right now you are asked about 15 different questions when you call for a skunk cage, and I think that's over restrictive.
10 seconds, sir. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Second, if you're not willing to do that, take the model of Lincolnwood. Lincolnwood, no questions asked. You have a skunk, raccoon, possum, they take it away. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else for public forum? Here we go.
Hi. My name is Sue Hansel. I live at 473 North Howard in Elmhurst. I've lived there for 20 years. This is my whatever anniversary. I haven't hit the silver yet, so. My concern is an issue that you're going to be addressing this evening, which is the pawn shop issue. I know that there are quite a few people that are upset because the C3 has been identified as the area to allow it. My concern is I would not want to see it anywhere in the city, and I am hoping that I will hear this evening that the restrictions for the, whatever you're calling it, the special consideration or whatever the restrictions will be when the people have to come to the council to request, that they will be strict enough that it will pretty much take away that option as any more pawn shops being able to come in. Since we're being hit with this issue and kind of blindsided by it because not being prepared with some sort of ordinance, we might also want to look into some other nice establishments that may want to make their place in Elmhurst, and I'm not sure, I'm not educated in the fact that maybe you already have an ordinance for tattoo parlors or some other of the less desirable establishments that may want to come knocking on our door. The issue of gambling was brought up. What about the off-track gambling establishments, the off-track betting or whatever those are called? I have loved this city. I think any of you that know of my volunteer work, I am always there for the city. And I would hate after 20 years to see it shift in a poor way, where the weakness of that we would see some cracking in the strength of this community. It's a good community. I think we need to protect ourselves from some of the less desirable types of establishments coming into our city. So I'm hoping that the ordinance will be strong enough, and I'm hoping that it will pass this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Anybody else? The gentleman here? And then I'll go to the gentleman over. I'll go to you in a second.
Richard Wilbert, 509 Howard. On the same topic, we do have capabilities for pawn shops. It's called Craigslist and eBay. And what that prevents us from doing is having the less desirable businesses right in our own backyard. I'm sure none of us would want a pawn shop as a next-door neighbor. But we still have the capability through the internet to go in and find used goods for the people who need to utilize that service. You don't need to have a pawn shop in your backyard. And what that allows us is one of the great things about Elmhurst is the accessibility. And with pawn shops, you know, the 290, 294, 83 accessibility, what it provides for the less desirable element is the ability to come here very quickly, unload potentially goods that are crime-related, and quickly get away. Another thing that I want to add to Ms. Hansel's comments is make the ordinance more broad. She mentioned tattoo parlors, pawn shops. We certainly wouldn't want strip clubs or some of the payday loan types of businesses as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentleman here to my right.
I'm Ron Bottens. I live at 652 Van Auken. We've been there 45 years. I'd like to address the same concerns that these people have just stated. The City Council seems to think that the pawn shops are okay in the C3 areas. That's the fringes of Elmhurst. It could easily be mistaken as a Bensonville or a Villa Park or a Berkeley. It reflects on Elmhurst regardless of where they're at. We don't need them. And if we do need them, let's put them in section or C1, 2, and 4 also, not only in section 3. I hope the mayor will be different from the previous mayor who looked down his nose on North Elmhurst, made some derogatory remarks about that area being a tear-down area. And granted, there are some older homes that have been torn down, and there's more to go, but we pay taxes just like everyone else, and dumping pawn shops and payday loan stores in our area is not going to do anything for us, and it's not going to help Elmhurst either, because the people that come in and use these areas are going to notice that, hey, there's other parts of Elmhurst that we can frequent too, like the city center. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Battens. Anybody else for public forum at this point? Seeing none, I will now close public forum and go on to the next item, which is our consent agenda. At this point, are there any items that anybody here at the dais would like to remove and possibly vote no on or have a question on? If you do, please state that at this time. Alderman Wagner?
Letter K, please.
Letter K. Alderman Pezza?
L.
L. Alrighty. Anybody else? Alderman Rose?
Item E.
Item in E. You good? Okay. I will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, less items E, K, and L. Alderman Brown? Alderman Hipskin? Ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll on this, please.
Graham.
Aye.
Hipskin.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Pezza.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Rose.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Nybo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner. Wagner.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. The consent agenda is approved, less items E, K, and L. And the first item we're going to go to on the that was removed from the consent agenda refers directly to the pawn shops and payday loans. That's item E. I'd ask Clerk Spencer to read the recommendation, please.
This is a referral to the mayor and the city council, and it's regarding regulation of pawn shops and payday loan establishments. It is respectfully requested an attached memorandum from Alderman Susan Rose to be referred to the Public Affairs and Safety Committee for their evaluation and recommendation back to the City Council. And it was submitted by Thomas P. Borchard, City Manager.
Very good. And I ask for a motion and a second to get this on the floor, please. Alderman Rose and Alderman Pezza. Discussion. Alderman Rose.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would not normally pull a referral off, but because there's so much interest in this, I want to make sure that people understand both in the community and those folks who are here. I have submitted a referral and asked for this to be considered by the appropriate committee here in the City Council to broaden our regulation of pawn shops, and I've added payday loan establishments. So I thought someone mentioned that, and I have some strong, and I have had for some time. So zoning is one issue where we, and I think the resident who said we need to make sure our controls are strong on this, I think we can do that from a zoning perspective, but I've had some concern that there might be additional regulation we should think about, and that would be some kind of local licensing. Some communities do that. Other regulatory methods to preserve the quality of our neighborhoods. For example, distance from particular institutions, restrictions on the type of merchandise that can be taken in and sold, specific kinds of alarms that are needed. The third point is we should consider what enforcement mechanisms are appropriate for these types of businesses. Do we need other stronger enforcement for these? And fourth, we ought to find out how other communities in DuPage regulate such establishments. Currently, there are 11 licensed pawn shops in DuPage County. Only 11. There's 11,000 pawn shops in the state and only 11 in DuPage County, and we ought to ask ourselves why that is. And does Elmhurst want to join one of these? Do we want to make this number 12? I certainly do not. There's strong concern about where pawn shops deal primarily in cash. They deal in items that have been stolen. There's been a variety of, I don't mean to malign the business ethics of anyone, but there's a variety of laws that and history that have shown that pawn shops do attract stolen merchandise. There is a procedure in place, however, whereby Illinois law requires including local police departments with a list of daily pawned items, allows police to give pawn shop owners a list linking the names of persons who are pawning these items with those people who have convictions for theft. We want to make sure those laws are followed in Illinois. And the last thing I've done is to add pawn shops, although I didn't think this resident had a good idea in terms of looking at perhaps some other things, to add payday loan establishments, which are really even worse. I would say this: desperate times produce desperate people who might do desperate things, and what we want is to keep our neighborhoods safe. Payday loan establishments can charge as much as 450% yearly for small loans that quickly mushroom into more crippling debt. What do we want to do about that? I want us to look at that and ask ourselves, what kind of regulation do we further need? I'm the alderman from the 3rd Ward. I live north of North Avenue. We do not want to, in our current law, we will not put these establishments only in the 3rd Ward. We are actually going to try to regulate this so that we keep the character of not just the 3rd Ward, but of our whole community. And I would respectfully ask for this referral to move forward.
Thank you, Alderman Rose. I know Alderman Pezza, do you have a quick thing?
Oh, I was just second.
Seconded, okay. I echo Alderman Rose. I think I'm the first mayor that actually grew up north of North Avenue. So I may live on the south side of Elmhurst, but I was born and raised on that north side. And we will basically do whatever we can. And this ordinance, if we allow them to be, first of all, if we try to ban them, they are in a position where they could actually probably win a lawsuit and put them wherever they would choose to be. So this was a win-win for us and also for the north side residents. And there are some parts of C3 that are actually on the south side as well, up toward Butterfield Road, et cetera. So this is not a north side slighted ordinance at all, or not. We're not voting on an ordinance, we're voting on a referral. Actually, we don't have to vote on a referral, but this is a recommendation that we'll be looking at. But the conditional use basically puts us in a position where we can stop them from coming, which puts us in a very good position. And I think this council is committed to make sure that the Bottonses out there and the Hainsels that are out there will not have to deal with these anywhere in Elmhurst. But we have to do it the legal way. We have to do it in a way that secures the city and protects us from lawsuits. So, and C3, what a conditional use, puts us in a very, very favorable position to keep these institutions from coming to our town. So, anybody else? All right, this doesn't have to be voted on because this is a referral. Next on the agenda is item K, and it's a report. I ask Clerk Spencer to read the report, please.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Affairs and Safety Committee that a 6-month extension would be appropriate to allow the referendum to be proposed and the results to be determined to allow the district to pay their fair share of payments to the City of Elmhurst. Respectfully submitted, Public Affairs and Safety Committee, signed by Patrick Wagner, Chairman, Chris Nybo, Vice Chairman, and Paula Pezza.
All right, I need a motion and a second to get that on the floor. Alderman Wagner, Alderman Nybo. Alderman Wagner, discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to pull the item and defer it for 2 weeks.
Okay. We're just deferring this item for 2 weeks. Any discussion at all? We can probably do this by yes vote. All in favor for deferring this for 2 weeks? Aye. 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 Oh, no vote? Okay. Sorry about that. Very good. So that'll be deferred for 2 weeks. I thank Alderman Wagner for that. And next on the agenda is item L. That is a recommendation. Clerk Spencer, could you please read the recommendation? And real estate consulting services, please.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council direct the City Attorney to prepare a consultant agreement with Van Slyke Enterprises, Inc. for real estate consultant services as described above. Respectfully submitted, Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee, signed by Stephen W. Hipskin, Chairman, Kevin L. York, Vice Chairman, Mark Milliner, and Diane Gutenkopf.
All right, I'll need a motion and a second to put this on the floor, please. Alderman Pezza, second by, anybody second? Alderman Wagner. Any discussion?
Yes.
Pezza.
Thank you. I'll try to make this very brief. First, I would just like to thank City Manager Borchert for his attention to this item. I believe we would all agree that it is important for anyone who does consulting work for the city to have a updated agreement, and I appreciate the attention to this matter. Briefly, I just wanted to give my quick input, a couple of items for the record that I feel going forward when the city attorney composes the actual agreement that appear to be pretty routine elements that should appear, and possibly tie up some loose ends and just build a stronger agreement with clarity. Number one, was stated that no subcontractors are ever involved. I felt this would be important to include. Number two, disclosure. Disclosure as far as real estate law goes, as far as receiving commissions on properties involving the city. I know that has never happened. I think that's an important element. Number three, errors and omission insurance. That has been in a prior contract. That would probably make sense to carry over into the new contract for the independent contractor to supply that. I think it's a benefit for the city also that the individual has proof every year of carrying that insurance. Number four, job description and limitations. And then number five, that all public-private agreements, it's understood that those types of agreements are approved by City Council. And then the final thing is, if we can incorporate somehow the understanding of the payment, I think my whole reasoning for this was from an economic standpoint, if we can take or try to ensure somehow that the general fund isn't impacted or has as little impact as possible. I know most of this payment comes out of the TIF, so I think that's important, that there's an understanding to the public that a lot of the payment comes out of the TIF and it really doesn't have a great impact on the general fund. And thank you also to the Finance Committee for taking the time to review this. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Alderman Pezza. Any other discussion? If not, I ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll, please.
Pezza.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Rose.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Hipskin.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Nybo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner. Absent. Okay, so that's 13 ayes. Excuse me. Wait a minute. No, 13 ayes.
One
No nays and one absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 absent. That motion does carry. And we'll then go on to the committee reports. Item number A, I'd ask Clerk Spencer to read the recommendation, please.
Therefore, the Development, Planning, and Zoning Committee recommend approval of the requested text amendment as outlined in the Zoning and Planning Commission report. The city attorney is hereby directed to prepare the necessary documents for city council approval. Respectfully submitted, Development, Planning, and Zoning Committee, signed by Stephen Morley, Chair, and Susan Rose, Vice Chair, unsigned by Norman Leader, Alderman, 2nd Ward.
All right. At this time, I ask for a motion and a second to put on the floor. Alderman Morley, Alderman Rose. Discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And it doesn't always work out that we necessarily address some of the concerns that we hear in public forum, but this is an opportunity that happens to coincide with that, this report. And it's part of the reason why we had it under the committee reports and not under the consent agenda. Initially, I was certainly surprised to find out that pawn shops were permitted in Elmhurst. And subsequently, when we took a closer look at it, it was determined, I want to say in 1992, is that right, Alderman?
Correct.
1992, for whatever reason, pawn shops were permitted in all of the districts, zoning districts, C1 through 4. And we did not dwell on the reasons why they were permitted in 1992. But in response to this discovery, the city of Elmhurst actually submitted an application for a text amendment to the Zoning and Planning Commission. And as a result of that application, the commission reviewed it, and they, for the most part, agreed with what the application had requested, with a minor exception. The city of Elmhurst, in their application, requested a text amendment that would delete pawn shops as permitted use in C1, 2, and C4 districts and allow pawn shops to be permitted in the C3 district. Mr. Whistler's commission, upon reviewing that, noted a couple of things and went a step further. While they agreed with the application and the city to delete pawn shops as permitted use in C1, C2, and C4, they went one step further, and they, instead of allowing pawn shops in C3, their recommendation was for pawn shops to be a conditional restriction in C3. In addition, in going over the municipal code, we also noted that they also noted that there was no definition for pawn shops. So we had a couple of conversations in committee. Ultimately, we ended up approving and recommending. This report recommends everything that the commission put forth and supports their recommendation. The one thing that we've kind of touched on, and I just want to reiterate to the people, and certainly anybody who's near a C3 district, that was at the advice of council. And there was reference made to it in the paper, but Alderman Rose and I initially wanted to eliminate pawn shops in anywhere in Elmhurst. And at the advice of council, it was recommended that we stick with what the commission had recommended, which was conditional use. That provides a channel for anybody who wants to attempt to bring a pawn shop in. It puts them on our playing field. If we eliminated pawn shops in all of the districts, we could potentially have a challenge of someone who wants to come into C1, C2, C4, wherever they want, and have a protracted battle. So the recommendation and the advice of council is bring them in on your terms. In this case, that would be C3. And in addition to that, make it conditional use. So make no mistake, this isn't a condemnation of anybody who lives near C3 or any sort of endorsement of pawn shops in general in the city of Elmhurst. This is the best way that we feel we can respond to what we've heard from our constituents, and I hope you'll support the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Morley. Alderman Rose?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would just like to say a few things. This report, one of the things it does, it says pawn shops are not permitted anywhere in Elmhurst. They are not permitted anywhere in Elmhurst. It is a conditional use, and what that means is if a pawn shop or a payday loan establishment actually wishes to move in to Elmhurst, they must come to the full city, they must come to the zoning commission, the zoning committee, and the full city council, and they must meet 7 requirements, the first 2 of which are the most important in my mind in relation to pawn shops. The first one is they have to prove that their presence will not be injurious to the health, the welfare, the security, and the safety of that community. So they've got to prove that in order to move in. The second thing they have to prove is that out of the 7 conditions is that they will not damage property values. So I suspect, being on the zoning committee for a long time, those are 2 big hurdles for them to climb to do that. So that's the first thing. So make no mistake, we are not permitting pawn shops anywhere in town. We are calling it a conditional use. And pawn shops would be, we asked actually Than Werner, our zoning administrator, why C3? That was my question. The reality is the bulk of C3 is actually in Ward 2. That's where the bulk of it is. It's in the 2nd ward. Some is in the 3rd ward. Some is some of the C3 district is in the 6th ward, and some I believe it's in the 6th ward, and I believe there is some actually in the 7th ward. I'm sorry, along right by the city garage. So I also want to make sure people understand C3 is not Ward 3. Ward 3 is one of the best places in this town to live. I live there. It's a great place to live. So this is not, C3 is not Ward 3. So we must, according to law, why do we have to do that? Because state law in Illinois says pawn shops are not retail establishments. They're part of the financial establishment. They're part of the financial infrastructure. And anyone who knows anything, as soon as you start talking about banking, the state moves in and says, you have to be very careful, you can't regulate, you have to be very careful what you can and cannot regulate. So this adding of the definition is absolutely critical. So we are saying, the law says to us they're not retail establishments, they're financial institutions as such. So I think that this is important. I think despite all the effort to glamorize pawn shops, you know, on cable TV, there's a recent show, Pawn Stars. You can guess what they're trying to, that double entendre, what that means. These are establishments that really are going to have a difficult time in Elmhurst. We want to make sure, we have to say, the law tells us, we're advised by counsel, if we say nowhere, then the law says then they can go anywhere. So we can't do that. So we looked at what are the, and you can't also say, well, then let's put it in an industrial area, because the zoning will say this is, there is a retail component of it, so it's got to go in something that's retail. So what we have done is to say it's not permitted anywhere. You just can't open it up. You've got to come all the way through the council, and you've got to prove that it's not going to harm the neighborhood. And if you can do that, and as long as I'm on the city council, that'll be really difficult to prove, if you want my opinion, that we must allow it somewhere. So I urge us as a first step to do this, to do it tonight, because if we don't do this tonight, what I'll tell you is someone right now it's permitted. It's permitted right now. So if we don't do this tonight, right now someone can come in and say, gee, I'm going to put it in because it's permitted. So we've got to close the door tonight. and I urge us to do that. We can tinker around with it, we can play with it later on, but I urge us, let's get this door closed right now and do it tonight.
Thanks, Alderman Rose. Alderman Leader.
I did not sign the report only because I was out of town, but I want to say that I am absolutely total concurrence with my two colleagues, and I agree with every word they said. And I, like both of them, feel this must be done now before, could be too late if we push this off. But I totally concur with both of them. Thank you.
Thanks, Alderman Leader. Alderman Brown.
Thank you. In regards to pawn shops, and I like when Alderman Rose speaks before me, and I don't like when Alderman Rose speaks before me, because as she's speaking, I'm crossing off all the things I want to cover on my list, because she hit almost every single point. I'm obviously, as well, not for pawn shops, and I've heard a lot of feedback from the residents in the 3rd Ward about pawn shops. The C3 district is in Ward 3, Ward 2 most heavily. It is in the other areas that have been mentioned previously. Walking in the building tonight, I was steadfast against this no matter what. I didn't want, and the biggest thing is I didn't want to even leave that door open, albeit slight, for a pawn shop to come in to Elmhurst at all, let alone into the ward that I live in and represent. But with that said, I spoke with city staff last week, and this week I spoke with the city attorney, and every idea that I could think of and all the research that I've done, I didn't see any other alternative other than to have it as a conditional use somewhere within the city. I thought of, and I'll touch on Alderman Rose's point a little bit, I thought of, okay, well, what about allowing it in an industrial area? Well, the city attorney advised me steadfast that that is not a wise idea, because we will probably be taking the court on that and lose. So I obviously don't want to cause the city any additional financial stresses. So the pawn shops in general, the good thing is, and I think the commission did their due diligence as well as the committee, so thank you to both bodies, is that the C3 area does not abut residential, I think in most cases, if not all. So that is one of the benefits there, that if we are going to at least allow it as conditional use, we're doing it in a zoned area that has the least amount of potential, and I want to stress potential impact on any of the residents. The other piece of the puzzle, and Alderman Rose spoke to it as well, is the recommendation that will be coming to us as well, which will, whatever potential that allowing this to be conditional use allows, the possibility of additional restrictions or regulations will reassure me sleeping at night that there will be less of a possibility of them coming in anywhere of Elmhurst, especially C3. So with that said, that is my stance in regards to the actual report. I do have questions on the report itself. The bullet items on the report. The first bullet item saying about the deletion of the pawn shops and the various permitted use as to date. Is the statement, and this is just really for a clarification, C4 districts, does that include C4 and C4A? Is that what it is supposed to mean, just for clarification? I see a nod from Alderman Morley, so I'll take that as a yes.
Morley?
Yes. A question for our legal counsel here tonight. The other bullet item says add a definition for pawn shops, and I know in the report it references the commission's definition. Is there any reason why we need to physically put the definition in the report itself? So should we make a motion to amend, or is the reference good enough?
The reference is good enough. The recommendation comes to you to include a definition. Your zoning code right now does not have the definition of a pawn shop, and there was discussion about whether or not certain jewelry operations or other retail operations would fall within that purview. So staff did a very good job of researching different definitions, and the collaborative effort of both the planning and zoning and DPZ really worked hard to make sure that we covered the concerns to give us that kind of protection. So it is included in what you're seeing tonight.
Thank you. And my only other point is I agree with what has previously been stated. I think we really need to close the door on this because I don't, even though we do have one in the city of Elmhurst to date, which was a surprise to myself as well as others, I don't want to see additional shops popping up elsewhere, let alone in the 3rd Ward. Thank you.
Thanks, Alderman Brown. Anybody else for discussion on this issue regarding pawn shops and payday loans? Hearing none, I'd ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll, please.
That's Rose, excuse me, Morley,
Aye.
Rose.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Pezza.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Pipskin.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Nybo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays, that motion does pass. Next on the agenda, reports or recommendations of elected officials. If everybody noticed in their packet, I have some appointments that I'll be making to the Senior Commission, which are noted here. We have Carol Yesko, Marianne Swazik, Heidi Forbush, Kathy Lorenz, Ruth Maple, Denise Myers, and Joyce McIntosh. So those are all appointments and reappointments that will be going on to the next meeting, but noted here in the in our packet. I don't really have a lot, so Alderman Gutenkopf?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I guess this is a point of order question.
Yes.
In the past, appointments and reappointments to commissions have been on the consent agenda, and I'm curious as to why this isn't.
We usually put a little note in the initial. I could ask City Manager Borchard to answer that question.
Past practice has been that the meeting before they appear on the consent agenda, they're in the information package to allow the council to inquire perhaps of the mayor and vice versa. So this is not to be approved tonight, it'll be approved in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Anybody else with any reports or recommendations from anybody here at the dais? No? Okay. Next on the agenda is number 12. It's an ordinance regarding video gaming, and I ask Clerk Spencer to read the ordinance, please.
This is ordinance MCO-18-2009, an ordinance prohibiting video gaming within the city of Elmhurst.
All righty. Before I ask for a motion and a second to put this on the floor, I would just like to say that this ordinance was very, very important to me and to many people at the dais. We want to make a statement that we are opposed to video poker and any type of illegal gambling, in this case, legal gambling in our town. We're concerned about the element it may bring. We're concerned about the negative impacts it has on social, economic, and families. And as somebody who has kind of seen what gambling can do to their own family, I can't think of a better ordinance for this community to really make a statement and hopefully tell Springfield that they need a better funding mechanism than video gaming. So at this point, ask for a motion and a second. Alderman Mulliner, Alderman Gutenkopf. I'm sorry.
We have to do a suspension of the rules.
Oh,
because we have
okay.
a report, and in the report it didn't state.
Right, that's right, because we're voting on the report and on the ordinance on the same day.
So I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, Alderman Mulliner and Alderman Hipskin, to suspend the rules so we could actually vote on this ordinance on the same day of the report. We could probably do this by yes vote, or do we have to do a roll call?
I think that's a voice vote.
Okay. Okay, we'll do this by voice vote to suspend rules. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, rules are suspended so we could actually vote on this ordinance. I ask for a motion, Alderman Hipskin, Alderman Mulliner. Discussion. Alderman Hipskin.
Well, I'd like to reiterate everything that the mayor said. This is not something we want in our town for all the reasons the mayor had mentioned, and let's send a message down to the state that they do need a better funding mechanism than this. We don't need it here in Elmhurst, and we don't need it here in the state of Illinois either.
Thank you, Alderman Hipskin. Anybody else? With that, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Hipskin.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Pezza.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Rose.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Nybo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. That motion does carry, and we have an ordinance in place prohibiting video gaming. Next on the agenda is item 13, other business. City Manager Borchert, do you have any other business that you'd like to report?
I have no other business.
City Attorney Storino, or actually Mr. Peppers, who was taking the spot of City Attorney Storino?
Mr. Storino has no other business to report, nor do I.
Righty. Anybody else on the dais for other business? Alderman Brown.
Yes, thanks. It was actually more of a report. I was wondering, Mayor, if you were able to attend the O'Hare meeting last week, Thursday, or a representative from the city of Elmhurst. And I think that was in regards to the western access. If you can give us a status update.
Absolutely. I was not able to make it, but City Manager Borchert, I believe, was there, and I think we sent Mike Kopp and Mike Hughes, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, City Manager Borchert?
Yes, one of the engineers from the Public Works Department did attend that meeting. It's my understanding that they are, as an organization, moving forward with the east-west access corridor from Elgin to O'Hare, western access to O'Hare Field, now with a corridor that would then wrap around the south end of O'Hare Field and over towards Grand Avenue, in the vicinity of Grand Avenue, where it would then reconnect or connect to 294. We'll probably be asked to pass a Elmhurst resolution in support of that concept, to allow that concept to be further evaluated and studied, and to flush out the details of how that connection occurs in the vicinity of Grand Avenue and 294. Meaning, would there be ramps, access ramps? Could you get off 294 onto Grand Avenue, or would it simply be a connection to the 294? If there's a connection to the Grand Avenue side of the local roadway system, there are certainly impacts to North Elmhurst, Northeast Elmhurst, pro and con, and we'll be following those.
Follow on, Brown? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. With that, I believe there were, and I don't remember the numbers of the two options, but there were two options being proposed for the draft EIS or the draft environmental impact study. Has it been decided which option that they prefer at this point?
I forgot that, the option that I described, but it is the option of connecting to 294 at about Grand Avenue.
I can clarify that. It's option D, and it's number 203. 203D. And we will be shortly, we're waiting for Bensonville and some of the other surrounding communities to submit their statute that they're passing at their city halls. We're all going to united send a message to Springfield, along with 4 mayors, including myself. They'll be going to meet with our governor to indicate to him that, you know, we're all united behind this. We've even got the Cook County mayors from Franklin Park and from North Lake, Mayor Sherwin and Mayor Peterson from Franklin Park. Alderman Brown-Spann, we were both at an event for him the other day. And so we're all working together, you know, the eastern DuPage suburbs as well as the western Cook suburbs to make sure that we work together and you know, come to some sort of a compromise so that we all benefit. And we all, especially with Grand Avenue, I think it's a shot in the arm for Elmhurst and Bensonville. City Manager Borchert.
In that regard, we're waiting for some of that clarification, and then it would be the mayor's request, my request, that item be then put on a Public Works and Buildings Committee agenda for the committee to review it in detail. That would be the committee to then offer a recommendation to the full city council. As the mayor suggested, there appears to be some consensus of the communities that that is the preferred option. Once we understand some of those details, this city council would be asked to pass a resolution of support of further study of that option.
Thank you.
Alderman Rose.
I urge us to at least further study this, and you know, it's very nice to say this might be good for the region, but I'll tell you, this is Elmhurst. We have to not sacrifice the northeast part of Elmhurst for the region, and I'll tell you, we will fight to the tooth and nail for that, because this is an ongoing issue. We heard Now, 2 years ago, we met at the Tollway Authority. It's going to take a long time. We've got to study, blah, blah, blah. But this is absolutely critical, and I know that a lot of those towns further east would love to have us not be as strong as we are about this, but I'll tell you, it's just critical that they come into line and not sacrifice really the homeowners of Elmhurst for some regional planning notion of getting cars to the east. It's absolutely critical that that not happen. And folks in the 3rd Ward, again, this is a huge issue for people in the 3rd Ward, in the northeast part of Elmhurst, that we need some access off of 294 east, but it cannot be sacrificing really the quality of life of the people who live on North Avenue in the northeast part of this town. They have put up with a lot, and the last thing they want to hear is, gee, you got to sacrifice for somebody further east. We simply will not do that. So I'll go all the way back in history. Okay. This is the reason I ran was this issue, and this issue we absolutely, former administrations were thinking about, gee, let's tear down all the houses on a particular block so we can put a ramp in so that people who don't spend money in Elmhurst, don't live in Elmhurst, can pass through Elmhurst and head east. And that's the last solution that we want to see. We don't want a solution like that.
Thank you, Alderman Rose, and I echo those comments wholeheartedly. So, with this project, we are trying to also incorporate this turnaround or new ramp, hopefully, that we can end up getting. And this is going to be a highway project, Tollway Authority, that I should say, because of the funding mechanism. And we are working closely with the Tollway Authority. Rocco Zuccaro, who's kind of like the main guy over there that's working with us, trying to get the ramps on Grand, and we're trying to get that eastbound issue at North Lake. We have a study that was actually funded between DuPage mayors and managers and through the COG to our east, which is actually they're actually spending most of the dollars out of their pocket to do this. So, and we are working closely with those mayors to make sure we have a win-win, and believe me, we will. So I appreciate your concern. Alderman Brown.
Thank you. Staying on this topic for one last item, I've received a lot of phone calls in regards to the noise issues from O'Hare as of late. It seems like it's dramatically increased. I'm not sure on what's going on in O'Hare Field, but I've received a lot of complaints, and since I live in that area and under that runway that I love so much, that I could definitely substantiate those claims. I was wondering on what could Elmhurst do to take steps to see if there is anything that we can do, but I know that the Suburban Noise Commission was out years ago. If we can bring them back to see what it is, to monitor the decibel levels. I know that they've already released the flight caps and many of other things at O'Hare, so that's above our capacity. But what can Elmhurst do to, one, understand what's going on at O'Hare, why it has increased so dramatically as of late, and two, what can we do to prevent it from pretty much being a greater nuisance in the area?
Should I defer that to the city manager, or should I take part of it and let you take part of it? What do you think? Well, first of all, I took a little tour of O'Hare with Senator Pankow. She was gracious enough to take us out there, and we actually got to see the new runways that are being built. And the thing about O'Hare is it's happening. The runways are being poured, and fortunately for us, the runways are actually east-west runways and not north-south runways. So in the end, when this airport is finished, traffic will be more frequent over suburbs to the east and west of O'Hare than to the north and south of O'Hare. So that is a good thing for us. And knowing that this airport is going to happen, I think most of these mayors, including Addison and Bensonville and myself, Elmhurst, while we are fighting for our towns, we are also not going to fight something that's a losing battle, like Bensonville did, and pretty much is in a tough financial situation. But we will fight for soundproofing. We're going to fight to make sure that there's monitoring. We're right now trying to figure out if SOC is viable or not. That's a big issue because Bensonville and Elk Grove were basically the two main carriers of SOC. and it's something that City Manager Borchert and I are looking at, as well as some of the other noise organizations that are out there, to see how we can get the best benefit for Elmhurst, whether it's soundproofing, whether it's monitoring, et cetera. So these are all work in progress, and we're working closely with Mayor Soto from Bensonville, who's another guy that grew up in town that cares very much about those residents, but also is trying to look at the economic benefit of the airport and see how we can, best impact something that's going to happen anyway. But at the same time, fight for whatever we can to keep the noise to a minimal. I'd say the good part, the new runways face east-west. There is still going to be the diagonal runway, which they tell me is primarily for crosswinds. My mom used to always say it was a bad weather runway. I grew up, Pat, Alderman Wagner and myself grew up about 3 houses from each other and grew up underneath that runway just like you did. So it wasn't something we loved, believe me. But this is Elmhurst, so you either got planes, trains, highways. That's unfortunately we got some great things in this town, but we also have some. Yeah, right. Exactly. So again, those are the things that we're doing. But I can tell you, once this airport is done, that traffic should be cut down. The runway, the diagonal runway that goes over Elmhurst will still exist, but they're only going to use it for crosswinds and for bad weather. So that air traffic should get better. I'll let City Manager Borchert talk about SOC and possibly some of the other organizations we're looking at too.
Elmhurst is still a member of the Suburban Hair Commission. It has had a monthly meeting for the last 4 or 5 months now. They're reviewing the pros and the cons of possibly re-establishing the ability to have mobile vans to do noise monitoring. That's a possibility. No decision's been made of the SOC communities. There is another organization called the O'Hare Noise Compatibility Commission, and Elmhurst evaluated that commission as a potential agency for the city of Elmhurst to join many years ago and opted not to. I believe that perhaps should be revisited. As Mayor DeCiani has reported, O'Hare Field is being modernized, and there are new runways going in. That seems to be inevitable. It's going to continue to go forward. Elmhurst ought to look at its opportunity to put its best foot forward on all fronts, and it might be appropriate for Elmhurst to consider at least the pros and cons of being a member of the O'Hare Noise Compatibility Commission, in addition to the Suburban O'Hare Commission. So we'll get more information on that and perhaps bring that to I think this would be more the Public Affairs Safety Committee.
Thanks, City Manager Borchert.
Thank you.
Anything else? Alderman Healy.
It's more of a request for a future and hopefully a near future council meeting. I'd like to suggest that we get an update from whether it's city staff, the police department, District 205. Recently, there's been a lot of news about drugs in town. The excellent work of the police force, working with other departments on some of the problems coming through town. The town hall was certainly an excellent thing. Over the last week or so, I've been hit with a lot of questions. I'm sure other aldermen have as well, about what we're doing about it as a city. I'd like to get an update on that, whether it's with just the police force or in conjunction with 205 city staff. Just a general overview in terms of what we're doing: intervention, interdiction, enforcement, just some basics, so that I think we all have answers. We're looking for answers, and more importantly, the community hears what we're doing.
It's a great recommendation, Alderman Healy, and City Manager Borchert just mentioned we can do that definitely for our next meeting. We'll definitely have a report from city staff, probably including Chief Neubauer. So, anybody else? Alderman Pezza.
Thanks. I just wanted to add a quick positive flip to the whole O'Hare Airport noise issue. While the noise can be annoying and burdensome, we have to remember one of the reasons a lot of people want to live in Elmhurst and look for homes here is because of the close proximity to the airport and how quick and easy you can get to O'Hare from our community. So while the noise can be obnoxious, I guess the flip side is I think can be an attraction, and it is an attraction to our community because of the easy access to the airport. So it's not all bad, I guess.
You're right, Alderman Pez. Many people that live in this town also use O'Hare every day as a way of transportation. And I know I was talking with Larry Hartwig from Addison, and they did a survey, and a third of their town is employed by O'Hare Airport. So they actually took their stance off opposing the airport, realizing that it employs almost a third of their community. So that's another economic impact that many of us take for granted as well too. So, but yeah, we're always going to be fighting the noise, and I think it's best to have the best relationship possible with Cook County and Chicago, so that we could have a seat at the table. Whereas before, I don't think we really had a seat at the table. I think we kind of pitted, kind of bunkered down, and unfortunately this is happening, and the times are different. So we have to do it the best we can with what we have. So, anybody else? Okay. Any announcements? Alderman Wagner.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
I just wanted to remind everyone there is a link on the elmhurst.org website that has some really great suggestions on how to deter some of the increase in our rodent population. It seems like they realized that school was back in session, so they decided to come out. We're all affected by the same issue with skunks, and I just want to also remind some of the people that if you haven't grown up in Elmhurst for a long period of time, about every 17 years there's a cicada population that comes in. And it dramatically affects the increase in all rodents, skunks, squirrels, groundhogs, but it's not a laughing matter anymore. I mean, just it's the way of it's the situation. It's almost I'm searching for a word here, but it's difficult to get your hands around, right? It's a stinky issue.
Literally.
But in any event, my committee and myself are working with the police department to try to help them relax some of their requirements around cages. But I would like to remind everybody that Elmhurst does a whole heck of a lot more than, it's a unique situation when it comes to wildlife, taking care of some of the nuisances that are out there. Addison, they charge $100 themselves to loan out a trap. Lombard doesn't do anything. Villa Park handles dog calls only, and Wheaton only responds if the animal is sick. Those are just some examples that are in a memorandum that are also on the website as well, and this pamphlet is also helpful. So it is not a fun situation to be in when your dog gets sprayed. I understand that, and we just want to make sure that people are aware that there is information out there, and the city is trying to react as fast as possible, but they do seem to have just popped up in the last couple of weeks. But a lot of that is due to the cicadas 2 years ago. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Alderman Wagner. Alderman Brown.
Thanks. Back to the skunks. I actually did have a referral to Alderman Wagner's committee in regards to that issue a few months back, because it seems like it has gotten a lot worse this year than previous years. What we did find out, and I won't go any further than Alderman Wagner already did, but Elmhurst does more than other communities, and with this financial crisis that we're in, we really can't overextend ourselves any more than we're at today. So, albeit I would like to see additional things done, I think that looking at our neighboring communities and what we do compared to them, I think we take that little extra step that is needed. So hopefully that step will at least keep them in check, definitely not mitigate them, but keep them in check as best as possible.
Thanks, Alderman Brown. Anybody else? Having said that, I think it's time for meatloaf. Let's adjourn. Like a motion to adjourn? Alderman Gutenkopf, Alderman Hipskin, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.